Quick disclaimer, as you can tell, this video was released 9 months late, but the script and tier list was all for 2024. So, just note that while some webtoons have changed their ratings heavily since then, and even though this is released in 2025, no updates in 2025 are counted for this video. The webtoons I read in 2024 were absolutely popping, and I don't know if it's because I've gotten way too good at picking webtoons, or because they've just been better overall. I ranked webtoons that I read in 2024, so if there are some finished webtoons that are not on this list, you can either check my previous tier lists for more deep reviews, or just check the ending where I quickly go over all of them. Anyways, 82 webtoons to review. I will briefly go through the motions for those who have not seen my previous webtoon tier lists. This is the subjectively, objectively best tier list. This tier list is objective because I read all the webtoons to completion, even if I hate them. And I rank all the webtoons on 7 scales: romance, comedy, character, story, unique, art, and external. These scales are fit to a bell curve and then they are summed and stretched to a more appropriate scale. Eventually I might make a video on the exact details if people are interested. However, at the end of the day, this tier list is subjective because all of the rankings are in my opinion. Also, I'd really quickly like to say that I understand how hard making webtoon is, and updating frequently is a lot with a full-time job. However, it would be rude to rank it higher because of that, so some lower tier webtoons are there just because the artist can't update frequently, which is totally understandable. Besides that, let's get into what the actual tiers mean, because the tiers don't have the same meaning they do in other tier lists. F tier are the webtoons that actively annoy me when I read them, or they're just plain bad, or maybe they just didn't update that much in 2024. E tier is honestly for the webtoons that are just a little forgettable. Don't get me wrong, they might not even be bad, it's just that they didn't have very many updates, or they were on hiatus most of the time, or they maybe had some other factors that made it less than enjoyable. D tier is where we get to the webtoons that are just meh. C tier are the webtoons that are quite good, I enjoy reading them and they're well worth my time. B tier is where we start to get to the really good stuff. They're the webtoons that I really enjoy because they excel on one particular skill or the other, or they're just better than average in every way. A tier webtoons are really hard to pick in 2024, and so A tier webtoons are like the absolute must-read for webtoon enjoyers. And S tier is for the absolutely amazing experiences that even if you don't read webtoon, these are the absolute peak of their respective skills and still have amazing qualities besides that. Oftentimes S tiers also partially are maybe leaning to something that is more my preferences. So S tiers might not even be S tier for you as much as they are what I prefer, because again, this is a subjectively, objectively best tier list. Anyways, without further ado, let's get on to the actual tier list. Game Masters is a webtoon about 3 characters in a fantasy world playing D&D in the fantasy world. They are all degenerates and it's a fun time, but low-key the joke has run its course and it's gone way far off. It also has not updated in a while, and when it did, they were pretty short. It's not actively bad, but because of the small amount of content, I can't put it too high. Fuck +99 reinforced stick. This is honestly one of the worst webtoons I have ever read. Without spoiling it, it is the peak symbol of everything I hate about a lot of the webtoons in the action genre. It's one of those, oh, what if fantasy video game MMORPG, but realistic, and it just power scales to hell and back if you couldn't tell by the +99 in the name. I was really excited for one of the arcs because it pointed out the whole absurdity of the power scaling issue and how in this video game setting it would ruin the experience for other players. And they really villainized that perspective, which is incredibly stupid. I could honestly rant so much about how I hate this webtoon, but if you see on the card, it actually does have the best art in any webtoon I've ever read, but it is so bad in so many other ways that it still ends up in F tier. Letterboxd Comics is a slice of life webtoon about family life, but all the characters are drawn as anthropomorphic animals. I don't really have any strong thoughts with this webtoon, and it's just one of those webtoons that I read just because I finish all of mine to completion. I hate being negative, but I have to say it. The Gamer is definitely one of the worst webtoons I have ever read, period. It is power scaling to stupid, absurd heights, and I'm low-key happy that it ended. The ending did kind of poke fun at itself, and it was kind of a flop, but not answering anything too much, and that's just about as much as I expected. My succubus girlfriend wouldn't even be here if not for the fact that Merryweather re-released it and forgot about it yet again! If you don't know Mary, you will get very accustomed to hearing his name throughout this tier list, because instead of pouring his time into one thing, Mary dabbles in a bit of everything. Safely Endangered is a long-time running webtoon of short 4-commas that has finally ended a few days ago. Not every episode was a hit, but had a few hidden gems episodes that grew to be memes or just stick around my brain. Good stuff, Chris McCoy. Hope to see more from you in 2025. Zomcom is a webtoon by Emmy, but it updates super infrequently. It's just small 4-comma strips of a world with cute horrors. Again, the slice of life cutesy webtoons can't really compete much with the other webtoons, but it is nice to see this, and we get a slice of Emmy's art style. Archie Comics' Big Ethel Energy was alright, but it had so many problems. The ending was absolute garbage because it got absurdly rushed. It started from girl boss main character who does no wrong, and I am a fan of girl bosses, but girls are human, and so they have to make mistakes. Do you think Mulan would be half as good if she wasn't a bad soldier before Be a Man? Sorry, sidetracked. But there were so many loose ends, and I can't really blame this one too much because it was probably getting pressures from Naver themselves, so E tier. Internet Explorer updated a couple times earlier in 2024, and Mary claims to return it in January or February of 2025. The TLDR of this one is that it's about waifu internet browsers, but it's an alright webtoon with infrequent updates. Monsters and Girls is a webtoon about hell and heaven LGBTQ relationships. It ended in 2024 due to the artist being mistreated by Naver, which is a shame. There is really nothing wrong with this webtoon, but I personally found it a bit forgettable, so eat here. The Little Trash Maid is in a similar category where it is a slice of life of short, cute 4 comas. Slightly above Zomcom because of its positive message of cleaning the trash, as the story follows the titular trash maid, a mermaid living in a sea of trash. Adventures of God are about the various antics of God, Satan, and Jesus in a comedic light, such as God being a drunkard and Satan being gay. I don't know why I didn't expect one of the authors to be extremely political, but it definitely ruined my vibe with this webtoon because I expected this webtoon to be more of a put our differences aside and just have a laugh. Weeb vs. Jock is different than Nerd and Jock, which is different than oh my god. Okay, let me reset this one. This one's fucking crazy sentence. Weeb vs. Jock is different than Nerd and Jock, which is different than Goth Girl and the Jock, which is different than Goth Boy and the Jock, and would you be surprised if I told you that all but one of these webtoons is Merryweather? Anyways, Weeb vs. Jock is actually really good, and is kinda between 2023 and 2024, so it goes in both. I can't really say much about it without spoiling it since it's a cute little short story webtoon, so I implore you to give it a read if you have like 15 or 30 minutes to kill. Honestly, if Merryweather made a whole bunch of webtoons like this, I wouldn't dislike him nearly as much. Meme Girls is a Merryweather comic, but it actually updates pretty recently, and it's kinda funny. It's about random news things and gaming mixed in with other random stuff Mary wants to do, and it's just like a really cool bit of brain rot. I think it's more comedic than other weekly comedies, but it lacks uniqueness a bit due to being related to current events. The Strongest Florist is another hyper-realistic video game MMORPG, and it also did the thing where we have strayed kinda far from the original premise. The OG idea was that a boxer fulfills his dreams of starting a flower shop in this video game world, and in turn uncovers a whole hidden niche in this game by gardening. Power scaling galore, and I honestly think that the webtoon should be ending soon since I feel like most, if not all, the plot points have been wrapped up. A Girl Called Lapin is a horny webtoon about a bunny girl. That's basically it. Many episodes couldn't go on Webtoon because it breaches TOS, but I mean, if that interests you, check out the author because he goes all the way off of Webtoon. Emigo has nothing wrong with it. It's just a cute little webtoon by the artist Emu, who wrote Axed, which is an absolutely amazing webtoon. She just talks about whatever she wants to doodle about, and honestly, good for her. But obviously that can't compete with other webtoons, so it's D tier. Sorry, Emmy, but the competition was too fierce. Made for Hire is this webtoon that had the basic premise of a high school girl getting hired as a maid for a rich, high school fuckboy type. I think the story is actually quite interesting, but honestly it strayed a lot from the original plot. It actually did end though, which I have to give it major props. The main character is also very faultless by the end, which is boring, but it happens a lot in webtoons. Goth Girl and Jock is a cute Merryweather webtoon where a goth girl falls in love with a jock. Nothing super original, but hey, he did in fact work on it in 2024, so D tier you go. Live With Yourself is a comedy about this guy, Todd, living with Tomo, his tomorrow self, Oldie, his old self, and Babs, his baby self. There's a lot of silly time travel stuff and some interesting lore bits, but I think that outlasted its welcome, and the ending was very weird, to say the least. It's a C tier with a bad ending, and it honestly makes me sad to put it in D tier, but I have to. Lore Olympus is a webtoon about Persephone and Hades, along with their romance, and Lore Olympus is a webtoon about Persephone and Hades, along with their romance and the other Greek gods. It ended in 2024, and the ending was really nothing to write home about, but I mean, it was kind of meh and forgettable, even though it was one of Webtoon's flagship series. Just Pancakes is a webtoon about 3 food wizard brothers, and if that piques your interest, there are many more funny concepts like that in this webtoon. In 2024 it ended, and the ending was alright, but as things were wrapping up, I feel like some character things and reveals felt like they were a bit forced. Maybe if I reread it I can see the foreshadowing, but I'm pretty sure the author just added some things to make it more of an interesting conclusion, but hey, I mean, D tier in 2024 is not bad at all. Don't Read This is in an interesting position. It has the largest score for unique, because it is just that, unique. Low-key, I think this webtoon was made as a joke, but when picked up by Naver to become an original, he had to start actually making some stuff up. One of the cool parts about this webtoon is that the audience is a character in the webtoon. The webtoon is in your perspective, and the characters interact with you, which is an amalgamation of fast-paced commenters. Cool concept, and very abstract. The Try Guy Super Sick is a short 3-episode webtoon, and honestly the name says everything. It's made by Shen, who has some other webtoons on here, and it's a fun read. I don't really know who the Try Guys are, so it had less meaning to me, but if you do then you'll probably get a good kick out of it. Simply Silly is a webtoon that is about a lot of things, but to be honest, the core of it is just comedy. There's a girl who just wants a girlfriend, a dragon who's pretty incompetent, and a whole bunch of actually memorable characters. I think this webtoon is hindered by the language translation barrier as the jokes don't hit as hard because of the wording, but for a regularly updated canvas webtoon, it's above average. Pixie and Brutus is a webtoon about an Ihu kitten and a retired war vet dog. Absolutely adorable, we'd love to see it upload, however infrequent. Blue Chair is an absolute classic in the 4-coma comedy sphere. It has sprouted tons of memes and has been there since 2014. Shannon randomly starts short stories in Blue Chair whenever he's bored, and it's just fun to see what random stuff he has to draw. Operation True Love was a very interesting webtoon. A standard one girl, two guys love triangle setup, with the girl being average and plain and the guys being extremely attractive, but it has some unique twists. The main gimmick here is that this app calculates love points and our main girl has 0, which is breaking the system. This whole love points thing actually added some thriller elements, which is a really interesting mix in the oversaturated romance genre. Overall, it's a good webtoon except for what happened in 2024, which I can't really say without spoiling, so it goes down to D tier for 2024. The Dickheads is a love triangle webtoon, and it's anything too special, but the artist is really good at drama scenes, to the point that some scenes actually make me feel fear, and I haven't really felt that since I read Brass and Sass in years prior. I think the whole love triangle setup is actually very cliche in many ways, and while this webtoon might take it down a less saturated path, it's nothing innovative on that premise. Everything is Fine is a webtoon about America getting taken over by a terrorist organization, and is absolutely horrifying. The story is good, but overall it makes me sad and scared as expected from a horror webtoon. It really effectively puts my guard down, which is something that other horror mediums don't do sometimes. Brimstone and Roses is a webtoon about a girl making a deal with the devil to have a demon pretend to be her boyfriend, and how they actually fall in love. It ended in 2024, and it was pretty good to be honest, but it wasn't anything super duper good, so sorry Experiment, D tier. Lightning Reaper is a webtoon that shows all of the evils in the world from the perspective of the Reaper, alongside the representation of life. Death is personified as a necessary evil, which is cool to see, and it's a very somber webtoon which advocates for a lot of change. Soulmates is a funny named webtoon about a shy nerd girl getting buff as shit, and her relationship with a cocky influencer who is also trying to get buff. It's very odd and direct, and a lot of the story just kinda goes here and there, but it's not bad anyway. I'll be honest, I only realized how weak the plot is only when making this tier list. The Dog Diaries is a webtoon about the pros and cons of raising dogs. I'll be 100% honest, it looks like a lot of cons for these adorable furry loved ones, but as a webtoon it has taught me a lot and has a really good reception for pet owners in the comments. Carl has returned from hiatus very late into 2024, and I can't say much about it because it's updated in less than 10 episodes so far. In summary, it's a webtoon about a robot who becomes a therapist, and I can't give a good review because with the developments in AI at this point, the reader's perspective of this webtoon could be entirely drastically different than me when I first read this. Nerd and Jock is a cute webtoon about Nerd, Jock, and at this point their respective girlfriends. Cute, short, and simple, but they still manage to keep it fresh. Bailin and Liyun is a gay webtoon about a scientist who meets a merman. It's very interesting to me because the author is actually a marine biologist who really likes gay mermen and human comics, with her drawing several of them almost exclusively. Anyways, it's great, but slow and short uploads hold it back a bit. Snow and Briar was made by the artist who made Unlucky as Lucky Does, which again, a banger webtoon, so I read this. Snow White is a dude who meets an absolutely muscle mommy. I did not remember this in the script. Snow White is a dude who meets an absolute muscle mommy known as Briar. That's basically it. It's in its early phases right now, so I can't even say anything positive or negative about it yet. Lovers of the Galaxy is a relatively short webtoon about aliens and romance. It's quite the cute story, a bit forgettable and nothing super duper new, but I remember enjoying it. My Giant Nerd Boyfriend is now My Giant Nerd Husband. Huge congrats to Fishbowl and her husband. It's a cute webtoon about healthy relationships. It's comfort food in webtoon form. Clinic of Horrors is another Merryweather, but I can't really complain about it too much. It updated a lot in 2024 and had a lot of interesting plot developments. It's an E tier due to Mary not being super good at writing whole and coherent stories, but I mean, it's an improvement from last year. We'll have to see where it goes, but it's low-key promising. Good on you, Merryweather. I Was Born to Work Retail is a webtoon made by Perigore, who made that little PogChamp meme animation a while back ago, and a few other animations you might have seen. It's a depressive, weird, and wild look on retail work, and I honestly find it more telling of Perigore and his life rather than him telling a story, since parts of it seem quite visceral. Candid Hearts is made by the same artist who made Brass and Sass, and since Brass and Sass was popping, I had to give this a read. It's pretty interesting so far, but I'll have to see where it goes to give a better rating than what it truly is. Boy Girlfriend was my first introduction to solo yaoi webtoons, and I really enjoyed it. I didn't realize how interesting the gay experience was in terms of coming out, as a lot of webtoons with gay characters either don't focus on them coming out, or have them come out before the events of the webtoon even begin. So seeing people come out in a harsh environment was a reading experience that I had never seen before. That being said, the more time I spend away from this webtoon, the more I see that it is clear as day yaoi bait, and the comments are the biggest victim of that. You can clearly tell the average reader is no more than 8th grade and are most likely Fujoshi girls, but I mean, I can't dog them too much because I really enjoyed it a lot. If you have a recommendation for yaoi webtoons that aren't Fujoshi bait, leave it in the comments. I'd love to read more of these. Plus one is this really cute webtoon about childbirth. I can't say any more than that. Something about this webtoon just really gets to me. I look forward to being a father one day very far in the future, and I'm taking notes, so cheers to the author. The Dragon Tamer is named by Pommel, also known online as CEO of MILFs, a name which may ring a bell for some, for her online short comics posted as dubs on YouTube, and for Rule 34 art on other sites. It's a cute, slightly horny webtoon about a schoolgirl who romanced a Yakuza member as well as her children growing up. It's not a story as much as it is a slice of life with story bits intermingled, but it's cute and the art is nice in more ways than one. After School Lesson for Unripe Apples is a very long name for a very long webtoon. It's a standard middle/high school romance webtoon, and it's good if not for one of the slowest burners I have ever read. But it is cute, and some of the side characters I personally like a lot, so C tier. Lumine is a webtoon about wolves and witches. If you aren't an early 2000s kid, I don't think I will make much sense when I say that a story with anthropomorphic animals turns out to be quite dark and edgy, but I was unsurprised by it. That's not to say that it was bad though, it had a lot of great moments, and I think it kind of flopped by the ending because the author just wanted to create some kind of ending. Probably should be B tier, but it's C tier because the ending was kind of meh. Of Swamp and Sea is a romance webtoon with great art, cool character designs, homely vibes, what else do you want? It's a supernatural about a girl getting a wolf spirit after said wolf spirit kills her father. A lot of trauma overcoming occurs and more trauma ensues. I don't really know what to think of the new arc, so it's not as high in 2024, but we will see. Winter Moon is a Merryweather, and it's his best work in 2024. It's his longest running series, and while it's another VR video game webtoon, it's not a power scaler for once. Some people do complain about its so-and-so faults, but honestly it's way more interesting than its other brethren in this genre. The story and plot are pretty bland though, and it's 500 episodes when it could have easily been 200, but I mean, we take what we can get with Merryweather. I Love You is quite the complex webtoon. The main man art style would insinuate a dark romance type webtoon, but it's honestly less romance and it's just a lot more dark. It's been on hiatus for most of the year, but putting it under C tier would be just criminal. Not So Shoujo Love Story is again a webtoon that updated earlier in the year but hasn't updated for the entire year, so inactivity got lowered in 2024, but it's an absolute gem of a creative Yuri romance webtoon. Irma is a cute little webtoon about the child of Sadako from The Ring and the brother of Jason Voorhees, and I am not joking, that is basically canon. In 2024, it had a very dark and horrifying turn rather than the cute comics of yesteryear, but I mean, hey, it's still pretty damn good. Lemon Soda and Coffee is a cute little webtoon about a girl who's as feisty and sweet as lemon soda, and a guy who's like coffee, and how they fall in love. I think this webtoon has an interesting dynamic as it's a story about a divorced single mom, which is unique in a way that I've never seen before. School Bus Graveyard. I wasn't gonna add this webtoon because I had just finished reading it, but I enjoyed it so much that I had to shout it out. It's about 6 kids who go to a mirror dimension with lethal phantom creatures when they sleep. They put aside their differences to work together, and it's cute to see them becoming friends. I don't really know how Red managed to make me like these characters that quickly. It may honestly be higher, but due to recency bias, I cannot accurately rate SPG, so in B tier it goes. Do You Remember is a very interesting webtoon in a unique family setting with interesting characters and story. It had a story played out and wrapped up. I'm a sucker for unique and niche things, so this goes into B tier purely for myself. Batman Wayne Family Adventures took a more serious turn from the slice of life Batman stuff, and I'm all here for it. I've never really watched Batman anything in full, but I appreciate these characters and they feel super rich and interesting. The story is taking some really good turns, which makes sense because this is an official webtoon after all. 1HP Club is a webtoon about a D&D campaign. That's basically it, but I think that the characters and antics are very real because they're from a real D&D campaign. The players themselves comment on the webtoon and it's just very fun. Marry My Husband is objectively good, with the only issue being is that I think it's a little overdramatic and the main characters are portrayed as flawless and the villains quote-unquote are portrayed as nothing but flaws. Other than that, I think it was pretty good and it actually ended, which may seem commonplace now that I'm saying it so much, but I've dealt with so many webtoons that overstay their welcome and go from a cool concept just mediocre. It's a simple webtoon about a woman who gets revived 10 years before her death, with her dying after finding out her husband has been cheating on her with her best friend. Yeah, if that is overdramatic for you, it only gets worse from there. Blacksmith is a story about an indigenous girl who dies by the hand of the legendary pirate Blacksmith, but now shares a body with him. Over the story, they both gain a whole new worldview and understanding. It's honestly a shame this webtoon has such a low retention rate and it's being cut short. It's amazing in so many ways. The character designs are great, the story is interesting, and the world is pretty cool. The only real issue is that it's less fighting and more talking a story, which could bore people, but like, that's actually interesting, unlike brain-dead fighting in some other webtoons. A Spell for a Smith is a sweet romance between a witch, who the entire town hates but occasionally requests help from, and a dwarf blacksmith. It's about overcoming self-doubt and setting up for herself. Not a novel concept, but I think this webtoon simply does it better than a lot of other webtoons. Also, the art is quality, so if you're looking for a palette cleanser from the more anime styles, this one is great. The Kiss Bet is a cute as hell romance webtoon. First, it's more complex than just guy and girl or love triangle. Second, I love the characters. This webtoon has some characters that I think about randomly all the time. It's a B tier because of the hiatus, and also because there's so many other go-to webtoons in 2024 that I just can't compete, but I think that's a testament to how other webtoons are so good rather than Kiss Bet being bad, which it is not at all. High Class Homo solves the age-old dilemma of how do I avoid coming out by instead marrying your gay BFF and then mutually and consensually cheating on each other. Absolute adorability, and it would be higher if the hiatus wasn't as large in 2024, but hey, a B tier is a B tier. Down to Earth is a cute webtoon about the romance between a guy and an alien girl. It has a cool story, cute art, lovable characters, hateable characters, and it's just good. We Are 101 is a webtoon made by Rule 34 Arts, and that's why it's here. Just kidding, it's actually pretty good though. It's another one of those unique fantasy webtoons, and the story goes really hard because I'm just like, I have no idea who's gonna live or die. In the first episode, someone dies and I'm like, oh, is he coming back or something? And yeah, no, he's like dead, which is a huge shocker to me. My Dungeon Boyfriend got a lot of hate because the main characters were flawed, but honestly that's super awesome because they have really interesting character development. I think this is less of a romance webtoon and more of a drama because the romance between the main couple is a lot less than the very interesting plot surrounding it all. Morgana and Oz is a story about a war between vampires and witches, and a blossoming love that's not really Romeo and Juliet-esque because the vampires are actually just really chill dudes. There is a whole story and mystery aspect, and don't get me wrong, it's all good, but man, does this art just do me over, and I don't know why, so it's gotta be high up on the tier list. So I read Marionette first, and I saw that Hooky was made by the same author, so I put it in my list to read later. What really compelled me to read this was seeing that I won the best graphic novel contest in my sister's 7th grade class, and one of her friends talked about it with me. I read it, and I can confirm that it is very damn good. The art style is unique and pretty, the romances are so sweet, and it's just all around good. My only criticism is with the ending a bit, because it was a bit trite, but it was unique enough not to bog down the whole experience. Castle Swimmer is a gay romance between a chosen one merman and a shark merman, and it's honestly great in a lot of ways. I've said this a lot, but it has a cool plot, the character designs are really cute, and the art is pretty, and I'll just be honest, I love an underwater setting. Public UR Club is a very fun webtoon made by Shen. It's about a high school art club and has a very unique art style and comedy format. Genuinely, if Shen put hella effort into it, it would low-key be A tier, but top of B is not bad at all. So Not My Type is a webtoon about the MBTI types. There are 16 main characters based off the 16 personalities and their interactions and romances between them. It's really fun because I put my friends in the shoes of the characters because I know their MBTIs, and while obviously it's not perfect, it's really fun to see the character interact and think, damn, this is how my friends would act. Odd Girl Out fell from S tier in 2024 for a few reasons. First of all, the romance arc is good, but it's so far off the main premise and vibe of the webtoon. It still does a banger job, don't get me wrong, but compared to how consistently awesome the other webtoons were in 2024, it goes here. For those who don't know, Odd Girl Out is a webtoon that was originally about a friendship between a chubby girl Nari and the 3 most beautiful girls in school. The whole friendship arc in the past 5 years made it S tier, but we have a lot less of that now. However, the male romance characters have so much depth that putting it under A tier would be criminal. Teenage Dragon, from start to finish, was fucking phenomenal. It was so funny each and every episode, had a full conclusive story without dragging on, iconic characters, and the list goes on. It's an isekai where a teenage girl in Seoul and a dragon in a fantasy world swap bodies. Very standard and trite premise, but they use it for a very unique and modern comedy. If the ending was just a teensy bit better, then it honestly would be S tier, but with such strong competition, top 10 is not bad at all. How to Become a Dragon is one of the most deep and rich stories out of any webtoon period. It is a story and world that values the time you invest in it. Based on Korean folklore, it's a webtoon about how the death of an immortal dragon caused there to be a once-in-a-millennia exam to see which failed imugi becomes a dragon. It isn't an easy webtoon to read if you're new to them because the story is complex, but man is it worth it. Watermelon is like Lumine in the way that it's an early 2000s furry vibe webtoon that has a dark and edgy plot, but I think the plot of Watermelon is actually really good. The plot revolves around a special gene that makes people have white hair and eyes. These people are called Laiba, and they surprisingly aren't some super OP race. They just look pretty and are discriminated against as witches, even though they have very little magical power. This makes our main Laiba character just a girl who likes healing, and the story overall is really cool in general. Senorita Kometa was made by Arya-chan, the creator of Luff. Senorita Kometa is a webtoon about the vigilante IT girl and her takedown of organized crime. The mystery, corruption, points of view, romance, and art are just blended together to make peak reading. There isn't really anything it does wrong, it just doesn't excel to S tier, but to be almost literally flawless makes it A tier. I mentioned Marionette in my review of Hooky, and that's why it's so high. Marionette's art exceeds Hooky's, along with cool characters, fascinating and gorgeous world, and I could go on and on about how good it is. We'll have to see where the plot goes because it looked like it may have some predictable terms, but until my predictions come true, A tier is not a bad place to be. My Little Sister is the Demon Lord sounds like a shitty isekai, but it is not an isekai. Look, I'll be transparent. This webtoon is about an older brother who is solo taking care of his younger sister who is the Demon Lord. I am an older brother who cares very much for my little sister, so this resonates very hard with me specifically. I'll be 100% honest, this is the most subjective placement on the tier list, but it makes me so happy that I could not place it in A tier. Avatar: The Last Airbender has a webtoon and it is at its peak. The webtoon picks up right from where it left off in the show, the characters all act similar, and it's just good. To be fair, it is an adaptation of the comics, which were made by large teams, so to compare it to the indie webtoons made by a handful of people is tough, but I just can't call it bad when it's just so good. If you enjoyed Avatar and want more content, this is the exact avenue to satiate that. We are finally onto the S tiers that I keep raving about, and my first is Daily JoJo. Dongyeon Lee is the author, and he wrote Yumi Cells, which is my third favorite webtoon of all time. So Daily JoJo had big shoes to fill, and it delivers. This author is a creative goldmine with unique interpretations of the mundane life that transcend webtoons. Genuinely, some of the things in Daily JoJo just come up in daily life and shaped how I view the world. Daily JoJo is a romance webtoon taking place in a video game company, and each romance is unique and interesting. What I am very curious about is how these relationships develop, because Dong Lee is known to make some heartbreakers, and so far it's been all positive and lovely for the most part. Nomads is the second S-tier webtoon. I don't really know if there's a succinct way to say what Nomads is really about, so I'll just say the things I love about this webtoon. First, the characters and their interactions are genuinely hilarious, one of the greatest comedy webtoons I've ever read. Second, the story takes place in an interesting world, and the premise will sound boring if I say it, but the subtle details and world building is just perfect. Third, and this is a me thing, but there are romantic hints and I am eating it up. There is not much else to say, and I just think this is one of the most underrated webtoons of all time. Cursed Princess Club is an absolutely amazing webtoon. The story never goes where I would expect, and I genuinely could never predict anything of the story as it came. It just ended in 2024, and while the ending was A tier, it doesn't change the fact that the rest of this webtoon is an absolute S tier. I've said this for 3 years now, but I will just go through the motions. The comedy of this webtoon is absolutely pristine. All the characters introduced have depth and story to them, so much that Lamcat insinuated that future webtoons will most likely take place in the same world. I don't really know how I could possibly sell this more without making a separate video on it. It's just one of the best stories in terms of unpredictability and comedy. The Greatest Estate Developer is the best webtoon of 2024. In a lot of ways, it's unassuming, as unlike the number 2 and 3 webtoons, it's not actually the best in any category, but rather ranks top 5 in 3 different categories, those being comedy, characters, and story. On the surface, it seems like a classic book isekai webtoon. The story goes that a hardworking civil engineer, Suho Kim, got transported in the body of a lazy nobleman in the book he was reading. Using his modern civil engineering and his medieval fantasy world, he improves the world condition. This seems pretty ordinary, but once you read it, it does a lot of things that other webtoons don't. First, it doesn't power scale hard at all. This is actually a big deal. The main character Lloyd isn't overpowered, and he isn't even the most powerful character in the webtoon. It is undisputedly his guard, Javier. The abilities he gains during the story he uses throughout, which is a big refresher from the learn and forget that so many worse webtoons do. Second, the main characters aren't boring or cookie cutter. He is very flawed, both externally in that he is said to be ugly and have comically bad singing, but also internally as he is in fact very greedy. Third, it does a fantastic job of dealing with the actual isekai portion. I can't say much more about it without spoiling it, and this video is already going absurdly long, so I will stop here, but if you ever wanted an amazing story, this is it right here. Last year I did the Subjectively Objectively Best Webtoon Awards, and I was gonna do it in 2024 too, but since I was super late on making this video, I don't really know what the data was at the end of 2024, so that's that. But I will end this video by saying if you read a webtoon that wasn't on this tier list, that doesn't mean I didn't read it, I just didn't read it in 2024. The webtoons I rated in past years are 10th Dimension Boys, 11th Me, A Bittersweet Life, A City Called Nowhere, Andy Bass, As Per Usual, Axed, Based on Real Life, Beans and Burb, Boyfriend of the Dead, Brass and Sass, Crawling Dreams, Demon Prince and the Salaryman, Don't Hate, Dustin Interactive, Everywhere and Nowhere, Fox Girls Are Better, Game Masters Shippuden, God Please Make Me a Demon, Goth Boy and the Jock, Happy Bunny, Hyperlinked, I Hate You I Love You, Illustrated Internet, Lackadaisy, Laris's Heart, The Legends of Silica, Let's Play, Lovecraft Girls or How to Prevent the Apocalypse, Luff, Luggage, Mage and Demon Queen, Magicology, Maya's World, Maybe Meant to Be, Meow Man, Merc Works, Mom I'm Sorry, Mers, My Daughter is a Zombie, My Girlfriend is an Orc Warlord, My Incubus Boyfriend, Nice to Meet You, Night Owls and Summer Skies, Nothing New, Oh Dream, 1 Million Gold, Rewriting Extinction, Roommates, Safi the One-Eyed Cat, Sarah I'm Sorry, Welcome to Our Galaxy, Shoot Around, Smilebrush, Snailology, Spellworld Bound, Stalker X Stalker, Succubus X Delinquent, Super Secret, Tales of Outcast, The First Night with the Duke, The Four of Them, The Horizon, The Sound of Your Heart, The Steam Dragon Express, The Wrath in the Dawn, Trixie, True Beauty, Unlucky as His Lucky Ducks, Virgin vs. Chad, Your Adventure, and lastly Yumi's Cells. If you want to know anything more about these 70 other webtoons, check out my 2022 video if the card was a black-blue tech background, and check out my 2023 video if it had static color backgrounds. TTFN, Tata for now, I'm finally fucking done with this. Stick around for like 3 months because I'm going to release the next webtoon tier list, and by then I won't delay it for 9 fucking months this time.